Hello, hello, hello. This is Talking Manchester United, a United Stand podcast with myself, Paul Gardner, and joining me, as always, is Ash Burns. Ash, how are you, my friend?
Yes, very good, thank you, mate. Good start to the Premier League season. 3 points in the bag. Can't really ask for much more. About yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, that's the hope. That's the hope we were starting for.
That works. I bought it.
That's the start we were hoping for. But before we go too much further, we do have a guest with us. Those of you that follow us on Twitter will know that and will know who it is. But let me introduce from across the pond, Andrew. Andrew.
You lovely gentlemen, how are you?
We're good. How are you?
I am fantastic. Sure as if any of you have followed me on Twitter know, I'm coming over to Manchester for my first ever game, and I can't be more excited.
I bet. What game was it for?
For Newcastle, it's October the 6th.
Well, hopefully 3 points for you there then and a few goals.
I kind of aimed for the whole, maybe not the greatest opponent, but still wanted it to be, a well-recognized name. So I thought I did a good job.
Yeah, it's good.
Excellent. Well, for the benefit of the listener, tonight we will be obviously talking Leicester. There's been a bit of news about the possible or rumoured appointment of a director of football in the not too distant future. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. Then we will do the Twitter section of the podcast. Some of you may or may not be aware, last season when we had guests on, we brought that bit forward so that the guests could also be involved in that as well. And then at the end, myself and Ash will go ahead and do the preview section for the game coming up away at Brighton on Sunday. And also, depending on how much time we have left, Andrew may stick with us for that part of the podcast as well. So let's go straight into Leicester City. Andrew, I'll come to you first, seeing as you are our guest. Give us your thoughts on the game against Leicester, everything from the starting lineup right through to the result. I mean, were there any surprises for you in the starting 11?
Well, considering the combination of injuries plus players coming back from World Cup, everything like that, no real surprises in the 11. I expected Darmian to start, especially with Timbo going out on loan, which I have to admit I'm a little bit upset about, especially because we all thought Darmian was going to be sold. But end of the day, it is what it is. The lineup is what it is. And, I thought that was our best lineup we could have put out, all things considering. As for the game, you can't ever complain with a win, especially a win in the first game of the season. I thought that the midfield three of Pogba, Pereira, and Fred looked really, really good together. Even
fresh,
though it was.
Season.
Oh yeah, it looked quick. It looked dynamic. I do think that Pogba lost a bit of steam, going into the second half, which to be expected. I mean, he did play an entire World Cup. He played every single game, and won it. So I mean, good on you, Paul. Not you, Paul. Other Paul.
Paul.
Sorry, Paul. But
that's all right.
But yeah, I mean, I honestly think that's the midfield three we should be running out week in and week out. They look like that they all fit well together, and I think that the longer they are together, the better that they will be.
And I think something you can also say as well is that all three of them put in, well, the whole team put in 100% in that game, and those midfield three all did the same as well.
Yeah, absolutely. The midfield three put in 100%. So, and I will say this: the first 15 minutes, I was honestly like, did Mourinho just pull the wool over all of our eyes the entire preseason, and this was the plan all along? Because everybody was pressing high, we were all going after the ball nonstop, and it slowly faded away. Which I'm sure a lot of that has to do with first game of the season, and you're going to lose your stamina a little bit quicker. But the first 15 minutes, I mean, we looked amazing. It slowly died down a little bit. And it is Leicester; they're a decent side, but I mean, overall, I'm not going to complain with a win.
No, absolutely. And Ash, I mean, Andrew just touched on then the fact that, for the first 15 minutes, we looked really good, really up for it. And then it tailed off, possibly because of the, first game of the season. But, I mean, for me at least, that seemed like a common theme throughout the whole of last season. The fact that we always started a game well and then we sort of faded off. I mean, what are your thoughts on that and the game in general and the lineup?
Yeah, it was a staple of our game for large parts of last season that, we started well, and then it almost as if we got a little bit frustrated that we hadn't scored in the time that we were pressing it and trying to attack, so we sort of stood off a little bit and tried a different tactic, or if it was just fatigue, I'm not sure what it was, but it can be frustrating. But I'm not too worried this season, as you've both touched upon. It's first game of the season. The sharpness is going to be a little bit lacking. I think the stamina is not going to be at its at its most. So I think, I'm not too concerned about that. On the game as a whole, as you both said, I thought we started really well. I thought that midfield was brilliant for most of the game. I'm loving Pereira, and I thought he was immaculate for most of the game. I thought he was probably our best midfielder. Although Fred had a good game, and people are raving about Pogba, I thought Pereira, I thought he was so disciplined. He kept to his job, because we know Pereira, he was originally an attacking midfielder, but not really once did he sort of push into the final third. He was really disciplined, shielded the back four, mopped up, loose passes and controlled the ball well, and which is, I really like that, because as well as Matic does defensively, at times he can dawdle on the ball. He's a little bit slow, so I thought that extra zip in midfield made a big difference. And as you said, Paul, that every one of them can put in a shift, and the big thing for me is all of those three midfielders that we had against Leicester, all of them are really good with the ball at their feet, and I think that's something that we struggled with massively last season. Not pushing the ball quickly enough through midfield, not transitioning quickly from defence to attack. So I think maybe a midfield, consistent of those three players, I think will help speed up our attack. But apart from that, yeah, it was a decent game. A little bit lucky, with the first goal. A minute in and we get a penalty. Granted, it was a penalty. It's nice to start off like that. But it took us a while to get going. But I think Leicester. Everyone's saying about Leicester. They're a decent side. They're a solid team, and they're always going to be resilient. So 2-1 at home. It should have been 2-0. It was just a bit of a dodgy goal at the end. But I'm happy enough, and I think we got some good signs going forward.
Yeah, I was genuinely really pleased with that win. The late goal from Jamie Vardy ruined it a little bit for me, I will admit, but I was really pleased with that win. One of the main reasons for that is because there's been a lot of negativity around the club, around Mourinho, rumours that he's upsetting players and players aren't happy with him. None of that was evident during those 90 minutes. During those 90 minutes, every single player, even the ones who didn't want to play, like Darmian, for example, every single one of them, played for that shirt. None of them looked like they were slacking off. Every single one of them put in a shift and fought for the manager. And there was chants of Mourinho all through the game. Jose Mourinho right at the beginning, near half time, in the second half. The fans are behind him as well. And it was just such a feel-good I felt, at least anyway, from the fans to the manager to the player, that the emotion that Mourinho showed when Shaw scored that goal. Oh, I got to ask, did anybody else feel like a proud father when Luke Shaw scored that goal?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. It's his first goal of his career for United, which that was amazing.
Yeah, I think it's his first goal in his professional career. Period. I think.
Was it? Might have been.
I think so. I could be wrong on that.
I don't know about that. I just know it was his first for United.
Yeah, that's definite. But it was so that was gone. Sorry, Ash.
I was just going to say, I'm really glad you brought it up, because I think that's, although there was some decent performances, I think that was my favourite part of the weekend as a whole, was seeing Mourinho back in his suit. I know it sounds weird, but clean shaven, his hair nice and done, looking absolutely suave, and everything from his demeanour to how the fans reacted. As you said, celebrating both goals with passion, hugging the bench. And then the biggest thing afterwards, I think, was coming out and praising the players. He praised Luke Shaw and said it was brilliant for him. He praised Andreas Pereira and said how fantastic an impact he's had, and he said all the right things. I think that was the biggest thing with a lot of United fans, me included, last season. There was times where we'd say, well, this player was particularly decent, or this player was absolute garbage, and he never really addressed it like how the fans saw it. Do you know what I mean? And I think he approached it perfectly after this game. He said exactly what the fans were thinking. He got on board with us, and I think it's brilliant, and I love it in terms of the media, because I think he's really wound up the media, getting the fans on board and getting a feel good factor back into the club. And that was my favourite part of the weekend. Just brilliant, and seeing that feel good factor just flow through the United fans. It was great.
And I don't want to bring a downer on it, but all that can change in an instant. One bad result.
I was actually going to say that. I was going to say, all it takes is it takes a couple bad performances, and all of a sudden it's going to be the real test of what Jose are we going to get? Are we going to get the one that's going to be continuing to praise the players and continuing to do the things that we just saw, or are we going to get the Jose that last year was basically saying that everybody is shit and you can't? We need better.
Well, it remains to be seen. I'm sure we will find out soon enough. Another point that I really want to make, and another thing that really made me pleased, is the partnership of Bailly and Lindelof. How many times last season, Ash, did I say, I want to see this, I want to see this?
Yeah.
How many games did we play against lower opposition where I said this could be the game where we might actually see them, because they need minutes together? Bailly and Lindelof, absolutely fantastic, I thought, against Leicester. Bailly especially, Bailly the beast.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you guys rate their performance?
Guests first.
Okay, so honestly, I could testify you guys were both clamoring for it, and I think that pretty much everybody was clamoring for it ever since we bought Lindelof last summer. And to finally see it happen in a regular season game, and to see how well they perform together, they both look, calm and cool. They both backed each other up. Eric Bailly looks like he's back to his old going hard at people. Honestly, he looks like a man possessed is what it really looks like. He looks like somebody's going after people, like just with a malintent, just to murder people at times.
Hold on, two seconds, Andrew. 2 seconds. Whilst this is in my head, Ash.
Yeah.
That thumbnail. See if you can make Bailly's eyes red.
Oh, of course, it's easy. Child's play.
Do it.
I love it.
Sorry,
it's totally okay. There was the moment where Eric Bailly was sprinting back when one of I forget who had the ball for Leicester, but he was sprinting back and he made such an amazing tackle, and I was like, oh my God, he's back. This Bailly is back, and this is what we need. And I know that I saw a question about it, but having a healthy Eric Bailly is, in my opinion, the key to our defense.
Absolutely. If he can stay fit and injury-free, he will be one of, if not the best centre-back in the Premier League.
Exactly.
I agree.
Excellent. Well, I think that's enough for Leicester. I don't think, unless any of you have got anything else you want to add to that.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think that, solid performances all around. I know Pogba was the only one to get into the actual team of the week or whatever it was for the Premier League, but it'll be interesting.
Think there was many outstanding individual performances, and there were certainly some performances that could have been improved. But overall, I think as a team, the fact that everybody tried, I mean, it wasn't like they weren't very good, but they weren't trying. Everyone put in 100%, and that was what matters. We got the 3 points, and Old Trafford was united on that note, and that was what was special as well. So let's leave it at that. Leave it on the positive. Yeah. There's probably going to be a lot of negatives this season, so let's try and take as many positives as we can early days. Let's move on to the director of football news. Then The Guardian, I think it was, who initially reported it, that after this backroom shake-up or whatever they're doing, because they need to create some more positions, they need to extend Carrington for the women's team. The women's team don't actually have any training facilities, so I understand that they're going to get all that done. Once all that's done, they're going to look to bring in a director of football. At least that's the rumour. Before I get the thoughts from you guys, we did put a tweet out on the Talking Manchester United podcast account, saying one of the topics for tomorrow's podcast will be the rumoured appointment of the director of football. What are your thoughts? Do you think it will have a positive impact? And who would you like to see appointed and why? Just a couple of replies on that one. I think I put it out at a bad time. Jamie Ward, he said it's a positive step if the right man is appointed. Get it wrong and we'll be no better off. With that said, Woodward would probably appoint himself. Kerry Gray, no confidence that the Glazers or Woodward will hire somebody competent. Fair enough. Rodney Cyrus, in my opinion, it's an absolute waste of time. So some varied opinions there. Again, guest first. Andrew, what are your thoughts on the director of football?
So, from my understanding on the way a director of football would work is that it's basically somebody to be an intermediary between, Ed Woodward and Mourinho. That's kind of what, in terms of like transfers and players and everything like that. I don't know if that's right or not.
Yeah, it is. So they do act as a go-between or like a middleman between manager and the board or CEO, whoever, the hierarchy. And basically what their job is to do is to oversee transfers, just everything to do with the football side of things. So player scouting, that sort of thing, basically making sure that everything's done within the ethos of the club.
Gotcha. Okay, and that's what I thought it was, but I didn't want to, think it was something different and be wrong about it. So if that is something we're going to be hiring,
there are various definitions of director of football. Some of them are called sporting directors, but they all do kind of the same thing.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, so in this situation, and the one that we were just talking about earlier, having somebody to be the, not just a go-between, but to be in charge of the whole football aspect, to be in charge of scouting, to be in charge of, transfers. I honestly think that that's something that we genuinely need. We all see Ed Woodward is great at bringing in new sponsors. We see that he's great at doing the things that are going to help make the club more money from, the business aspect. But it does seem like at times, I'm not saying all the time, because we did complete, some great transfers with Alexis Sanchez and Romelu Lukaku and Paul Pogba. We've made some great transfers, but it does seem like at times there is some kind of there's something missing. And depending on who it's going to be, because I've seen varying opinions of who it's going to be. I think depending on who it will be will also depend on how well that position will be held, and then it'll also depend on if that position continues going forward.
Yeah. Ash, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I've been reading a little bit about it, and apparently there's sort of 4 people in contention for the director of football job, if wanted, is to be appointed. We never know with these types of things, do we? But for the past couple of months, I've been a massive advocate of us bringing in a director of football, because although Ed Woodward has done, well at times, and he's brought in some signings, although I don't think he has been the be-all and end-all which has swayed a particular deal in the direction of Manchester United. The club alone, the name of the club alone is a big enough pull for most players. So I don't think, he will, be it. We don't need to sort of slather the glory on him. I think, he just does, what he does. There's some fans which are calling for his head and saying he should be sacked. Not a great move in my opinion. I think, like you said, Andrew, you touched upon, I think he should be in charge of the commercials aspect of things. We know how good a businessman he is, and how, he's a great money spinner, and he can sign all these different sponsorships, which is ultimately going to make the club more money, which is hopefully going to benefit, the actual football team and not just the Glazers. But I think if we were to bring in a director of football, someone who really understands the game, someone who can carry on Mourinho or whoever, whoever's at the helm, down the road, their ethos and sort of integrate everything, and be that sort of in between maybe the Glazers and the manager, and to sort of really relay the message, this is what we need, this is the direction we're heading in. And of course, with things like scouting as well, and certainly, putting deals together. I mean, I'm probably not the only one who really, really misses David Gill. You know, and he, as he was as a chief exec, because he was unbelievable. Him and Fergie were an unbelievable team. You know, before any of the media got hold of things, a player was signed, he was holding the shirt, and that was it. No one knew about it. And I think the speed of those sort of deals, you know, because he was a person who understood football, and I really think we need someone who understands the football side of things. Edward doesn't do that, but he's got his uses in other areas. So yeah, I'm all for it. Couple of names. I mean, Edwin van der Sar looks a favourite at the moment for director of football. I mean, he's done some fantastic things with Ajax, and I think is it Sierra Bees, is it Novara Dominic or something like that? Done some work there. Obviously understands and loves the club, so you know he wouldn't be a bad appointment. A couple of people, I think there's someone from Roma, someone from Juventus, I think as well, who are being linked. But yeah, I'm really all for it.
I think there's in terms of you know, the person being appointed, it could be if we are going to have a director of football, and I'll come into that in a moment. For me, it has to be somebody that understands what United is about. Now, that in itself does not narrow it down, because anybody who's been alive for the past 70 years will know what Manchester, and as a football fan, will know what Manchester United is about and what their history is. That doesn't really narrow it down. But it needs to be somebody who's in touch with the modern game.
Yeah.
And, you know, the social side and the commercial side of it. Somebody who's in touch with all of that. Which would make Van der Sar a very good candidate, because he's still playing now, or up until recently at least. So that would make him a good candidate. And I think those really the only two things that you need: someone who's in touch with the current game and who knows about the club. So it could be an ex-player, doesn't necessarily have to be an ex-player, but just as long as that person sits within those two categories, I think, you know, that you can't really go far wrong. And obviously they have to be good at their job, of course. You know, they have to fit the job description, etc. Will it have a positive impact on our transfer strategy? I suppose it could only do, really, couldn't it? Because, I don't know.
Well, it's hard to say, because, like, ultimately, there are players that I think that we as United fans, we look at it and we're like, okay, well, how are they not bringing in these kind of players? Like, honestly, the one that to me makes the most sense as a Manchester United fan, somebody that knows the history of the club and also understands the marketing aspect, is Christian Pulisic, who is apparently available this summer. He would be a marketing dream. And now, granted, I'm American, so I know, whatever. But like, he's a marketing dream. He's got the talent. He's got the mentality. He's got the work rate. You know, he's got everything that a Manchester United player would be all about. Plus, he's somebody that is a Manchester United fan as a kid and still loves the club. And I even have seen that he lost his dog recently, and he was looking for somebody. Like, somebody found him, and so they were asking the person to, like, basically pick him up and drive him home. And the person messaged him on WhatsApp and was like, they were a Manchester City fan, and he was like, "You should come to City." And he's like, "That's one thing I can't do." And so. I think that he would be more than happy to come to the club and honestly play his heart out. So when we're rumored to be in for transfers like Willian, and, you know, while Bale is a different animal because he is a world star, you know, when we're rumored for somebody like Bale that's been injury prone and is getting on a little bit, you know, when we could have someone like Christian Pulisic to develop and make into what is a Manchester United player, I don't know. It just seemed like it was an obvious transfer to me.
I mean, he may well have been a target. We just don't know, do we? We don't know what's happened there.
No, we'll never know either.
But no. Coming back to the article in the Guardian, though, a couple of things they said in there. That the reason why United want to appoint a director of football is because of the shambles of the transfer window. And then in the same article, they're saying, you know, that the board made the decision not to chase some of the targets that Mourinho had set out. So they were saying that these players like Alderweireld, Jerome Boateng, and who was the other one? I forget who the other one was.
Maguire.
Not Maguire. There was another one. Diego Godin.
Oh yeah.
Apparently they had rejected. They didn't want to approach them players because of their age. And then I thought, well, hang on a minute, they were also after Harry Maguire, who's actually quite a decent age.
Yeah.
And it also said in the article, oh, and they also said that they didn't want to sign these players, the board I'm on about, because they're no improvement on what we've already got in Bailly, Lindelof, Smalling, Jones, and Rojo. I'm sorry, but if you've seen Smalling, Jones, and Rojo play football, you'll understand that they're not good enough for Man United. Not even good enough for squad players. Although I would argue that Smalling maybe is as a squad player. But there was a lot of contradicting points made in that article, which just made me a bit. I don't know. I didn't believe the rumor. It just seemed like, and I think I said this to you, Ash, that that the rumors come out at a convenient time, hasn't it? Really, like the transfer window's been bad, and it's almost like it's just something that's been leaked to the media by the club, just to sort of deflect the attention away from the board and Ed Woodward, for temporarily. And if that is the case, it's a very feeble attempt to direct attention away. But I don't know. I just don't know what to make of it, to be honest. It just seems a bit. I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's a bit of an odd one. I don't know if it'll make a difference. I mean, there are the pros, of course, of having a director of football, but I don't know. Just whenever I read anything in the media, as people who listen to this podcast will know, I never believe a word that I read, to be honest. But that's just. But that's just what I think about it all, anyway. I mean, any you got anything else to add on that?
I don't think so. No, it's just I'm sure it'll come to light in the next couple of weeks or a couple of days or whatever it may be. But yeah, as you said, it's a good point you make. It could just be the media or a club release just to deflect sort of attention. But we'll see how the season goes. We'll see how the results roll in, and I'm sure something will come to light then.
Exactly.
Yeah, there was something else I wanted to say about it as well, and I was just trying to think of it, so I was sort of like blabbering a little bit, but it's just completely gone out of my head. So we'll move on. Let's go over to Twitter, I think, then, and well, actually, any of you guys listening, give us your thoughts on the director of football if you haven't already. I know a few people have, but we did put a tweet out on Sunday, so get on there and give us your thoughts. Ash, if you want to take it over to Twitter, then.
Yeah, so the tweet went out earlier on today. We'll be recording this week's podcast, joined by a friend across the pond, Mr. Bearded Red. So let us know if there's anything you'd like to discuss. Top of the shop then, Mr. Matthew McFadden. He says, how important do you think a fit Eric Bailly is to our season? The combination of him and Lindelof seems to have worked well against Leicester. We're going about forwards winning us games, but if Eric can stay fit, he will be one of the keys to our success.
Andrew, do you want to go first then, as soon as you are, I guess?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we did talk about it a little bit earlier, but, I think that Eric Bailly is actually the key to our defense being a success, especially since we didn't go out and go buy anybody. Because, I know that we've all kind of talked about it, and I would have loved to have gotten Harry Maguire in. He's somebody that I've rated since, honestly, he was at Hull. And I think that Eric Bailly with Victor Lindelof, it is honestly not only our best center back pairing, but honestly, we all talked about it last season when it happened, but it has the potential to be a reminiscent of like a Rio and a Vidic-esque kind of center back pairing. Just two guys that are absolute madmen that will go at people. They're both decent on the ball, and they pour their heart out for the club. And all we can hope for is that Eric stays healthy, because so far, granted, in his first year he did get hurt like at the very end of the year. He wasn't really hurt any other time other than that. But last year, he was hurt. I think on 2 separate occasions. So let's just hope that he stays healthy.
He did miss big chunks of the season last season, obviously, with the injuries, and then to give credit to the other defenders, where it's due. We still had one of the best defensive records in the Premier League. The players that came in did well. Obviously, they hindered the attacking side of our game with their inability to pass the ball, other than to each other. But yeah, no, I totally agree. I think that Bailly and Lindelof and they're showing signs of being a formidable partnership. We keep saying we need another Rio and Vidic, and it's a bit early to tell yet if these two can form that sort of partnership. It's been one game, well, one competitive game at least, but the signs are definitely there. What are your thoughts, Ash?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's spot on. I think at times, there was a couple of games that you can pick out where individual errors cost us. I'm thinking Spurs was one where Phil Jones smacked in a beautiful own goal, I think, was it?
Yeah.
There was so many occasions, I think, where individual errors from sort of mediocre defenders, your Jones, your Smallings. And I think, with Eric Bailly fit and in form, I think as well, because at times last season he did look a bit shaky, whether that's nerves about, getting injured or whatever it may be. He did look a little bit shaky. So I think to keep him fit, to keep him in form as well, and keep him consistently in 11. Don't switch him out now for a Chris Smalling or a Phil Jones. Give him a run of games, let him get match fit, let him build up a resilience against these challenges and things like that. And I think we'll see the best out of our defence. I think he is superb. Technically, I think he's brilliant on the ball. He's so strong, he's so quick, and his mentality is fantastic. He just does not give a damn. He's into every challenge, and I think we've really missed that. And I think that's something we miss in midfield as well. So yeah, to keep him fit, to keep him with a decent, partnership with Lindelof, as long as he gets some confidence, we know how good he can be on the ball. And as you've both mentioned, that Rio Vidic, that one animal and that sort of one classy player, I think it works so well. So yeah, sort of long way to continue where we keep him fit.
Yeah, absolutely. As long as we get continuity with them both playing together, then it could, play a big part of our season. Absolutely.
Moving on then. So Fionn at FIX. I'm pretty sure it's Fionn Curtin, but he's changed his Twitter handle again. Why we need a director of football? We've just discussed that. Thank you. Okay, so next, James Buttress. Do we need to switch to a 5-3-2? Sanchez looked a lot more impressive through the middle pre-season. It would also solve the lack of wingers / width we have. Take defensive responsibility away from Luke Shaw and still allow us to play 3 in midfield. Matic could even play at the back.
Well, Andrew, you're the guest. Go first.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was actually going to say, Paul, you probably will have a good opinion on that. So, but yeah, it's something that I discussed a lot with people on Twitter. Is switching to a 5-3-2 or a 3-5-2, however you want to call it. And I know quite a few people mentioned playing Matic as a center back, which I do think that he could do a decent job of. But yeah, I mean, when we don't have the quote unquote width like that, it also would allow us to, rotate out strikers a little bit easier. Because we do have 4 people that, are quote unquote strikers in Lukaku, Alexis, Martial, and Rashford. So, and then, wingers are definitely a lack for us in terms of true natural width. So, but I do think that a midfield 3, no matter what the situation, is a key to our entire season. And having that quick play like we did have with Pogba, Pereira, and Fred, I really do think that is the key to our season. So keeping them together, and honestly, I think that a 3-5-2 would benefit all things involved.
I did lose you a bit then towards the end. I don't know if you heard what you said, Ash.
I did, yes.
Excellent. Well, that means it'll probably come out fine on the recording then. So, Ash, if you want to give your thoughts.
Yeah, it's an interesting one with the 5-3-2 or 3-5-2 or however we want to play it. On one hand, I think it could work well. The 2 bit I'm focusing on, because I think if we played 2 up front, I think it would benefit us massively. And at the same time, like you said, Andrew, I'd really want to keep the midfield 3, because I think we've struggled up front at times, not just, this season, pre-season, and of course, last season was massive for that. But I think, where we play in that 3 up front, the 2 either side of Lukaku just don't work. Whether that be Martial, Rashford, Sanchez, obviously towards the end of last season, or Juan Mata, it just doesn't work for me. So having a 2, whether that be Sanchez and Lukaku complementing each other, which I think could work quite well, or whoever in Lukaku, I think it would give us a lot more options. That being said, we'd still need to rely on width, and then the fullbacks would be solely responsible providing overlaps. And have we got the fullbacks to do that? Probably not. As well as Luke Shaw did against Leicester, I still think he needs a little bit of development. He still needs to come on. And the right side, obviously Darmian is the only really fit right back we've got at the moment, and I don't think he's up to the task. So in some respects, yes, I think it could work, but in other ways, no. It'd be interesting to see it tried out, and I'm sure Mourinho will switch it up, whether that be for the bigger games. We'll put a 5-man in defence to shore things up. It'll be interesting, but yeah, I'd love to see us play with the 2 up front and on at least a couple of occasions.
To be honest, I honestly don't care whether we play 4-3-3 or 3-5-2. I'd be happy with either formation. As long as you both have said, as long as you've got that 3 in the midfield, because whenever we play a 2-man midfield, we get overrun.
Yeah,
simple as that. And we've seen that a lot last season. So for me, 4-3-3 or 3-5-2, I really don't care as long as we keep those 3 in midfield together. Don't start taking Pereira off and bringing Matic on when Pereira's playing well. Not that I got anything against Matic, but as we've seen, once he plays 7 or 8 or 9 games, he starts to drop in his performance. Yeah. And then towards the end of the season, he picks back up again. And Chelsea fans said this. For those of you that are on Twitter, Chelsea fans did say this a lot. That's what Matic does. He'll start fantastically in the season, then he'll dip off, rubbish all around Christmas, and then come Easter, he picks back up again. Then he's good for the rest of the season. That's exactly what we've seen last season. Yeah. Do we want to go through that again? I think we probably will. I think once Matic is fit, I think he'll be in the team. Pereira will be out of the team, and then it'll just be like, I think we said this last week, didn't we, Ash, that we might see Pereira and Matic rotating quite a bit throughout the season. I hope not. I hope if Pereira continues to play well, he keeps his place. That's what I would hope for. But we'll see what happens there. But ultimately, as long as we keep those 3 in midfield, I don't care if we played no one in defence and everyone else up front. Do you know what I mean?
That'd be interesting.
Formation doesn't usually mean anything, because when we're defending with 11 men behind the ball. That's how we do it. Whether you're playing 5 at the back or 9 at the back, there's always 11 men behind the ball, and then when we attack, it's just the same. The formation doesn't really matter too much. Obviously, if you're playing 4-4-2, then it might be a bit different. But when you've got 3 in the midfield, 4-3-3 and 3-5-2, there's not really much difference in either of those formations, if you ask me.
Yeah, I agree.
Next one then.
Moving on. So Gregory, Manred 80. Why was there an obsession for a centre-back and not the obvious weakness of the right side? So midfield, an established right-back or right wing-back. And 2, how would you sum up Sanchez's overall contribution in the game and to the team as a whole?
Well, I'll go first on this one. That first point about why is there more focus on a centre-back?
Yeah.
To repeat myself from last week, we don't know that the main focus was on the centre-back. It seemed like it towards the end, but for all we know, the focus could have been somewhere else, a right back, a left back, a right winger, but nothing materialised. And all of the targets were exhausted, and the only target left to go for was a centre-back. So it doesn't necessarily mean that the centre-back was the priority. It just, it could have been somewhere else. But in the end, apparently we put bids in and we were interested in all these players. But then the article I read in The Guardian is that actually, no, we never made a bid for Alder. In fact, there was never any interest shown by the club because the club didn't want to sign him. And it was the same with Boateng or Boateng, whatever you want to call him. Apparently there was bids in there, loan offers and things like that. But in that article in The Guardian, no, there was never any bid or anything like that because the board didn't want to buy those players because of their age.
Yeah.
And the fact that they didn't really improve on what we already had. So it's all a lot of hearsay, really. But I think there are other priorities as well, because we know that obviously our right wing is a problem. Mourinho's going to know that. He will know our fullbacks is a problem. And I'm absolutely 100% certain, okay, I can't say that 100%, but 99% certain that there were other priorities. Nothing materialised. And, you go through it in stages, don't you? At some point, you're going to go for a centre-back. And the fact that all these names come out right at the end, does that really show you? Does that really make you think that the centre back was the priority? Because surely all those rumours would have been right at the beginning of the transfer window.
Yeah. Andrew?
That was my bit.
Okay. No, all right, to me, yeah. So I agree with you, Paul, that we don't know what the true priority was. I do think that it got to a point where, I think that everything on the forward side of things, we did bring in Diogo Dalot, and that is somebody on the right who will need development and whatnot. But I also think that part of the reason why we might have not brought in somebody on the right, especially somebody younger, is because of Tahith Chong. And I think that the club does see a future with Tahith Chong on the right. So, I mean, maybe I'm just looking too far ahead, but that's just my opinion. And then, I do think that we got to a point where I think that with playing the 3-5-2, I actually do think that we, at least if you were to believe rumors, I think that that's what we were trying to do, is we were trying to get that additional center back to play a 3-5-2 that would be comfortable with, playing the ball and everything like that. But if we were looking for somebody like that, I mean, honestly, Rojo is comfortable with the ball at his feet as a center back. So you could make the argument we already had the guy there.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
I mean, that's just my opinion on the whole center back thing.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's hearsay, isn't it? We don't know what the media's creating or what the club's doing. I would have liked to have got someone on the right hand side, attacking wise, because I think Mata on the wing is just awful. As well as he does when he cuts inside, I just think it's a waste having him there. I think Rashford, he played on the right. I thought he was diabolical against Leicester again. So I mean, it's frustrating for me. There's a part of me which thinks, why didn't we make a cheeky bid for Mahrez? Right-sided, left-footed player. He's got quality. We know he can do it. He's Premier League proven, and he wouldn't have cost a stupid amount of money. Obviously, still costs a lot, but not ridiculous. But again, City didn't really need him. They've got plenty of talent there, but they've a depth in quality, and that's something that we haven't got. I don't think, especially in the wide areas. So that was a little bit frustrating. But again, if that allows some of the youngsters coming through, your Chongs, whether it's a little bit too early for him yet. If we're going to give him a chance, that's fine by me. And in terms of the Sanchez's contribution, yeah, it was a little bit frustrating with Sanchez. I think I read somewhere that he gave the ball away 23 times or something in that Leicester game. But I mean, we have a go at the players for not trying things and not being inventive. If you're giving the ball away, especially in the final third, you're trying things. I mean, I'd much rather have Sanchez doing that than Rashford doing what he did, which was, he didn't really have any impact. He didn't really get on the ball enough. So, yeah, I mean, he does need to show more. As Andrew said before, he played decent through the middle in pre-season. So maybe that's something if we play 2 with him and Lukaku. But, yeah, it'll be interesting to see, how it goes. He looked fresh in pre-season. He's had a summer off, so he looks hungry. And he's even said that, prior to the Leicester game, that he wants to win things. So I'm sure he's driven, and I'm sure he'll get the most out of himself. Another interesting point was, that Pogba argument that reared its head last season was having Pogba and him in the same team was a little bit, conflicting. And, that's another good point. Pogba did play in the midfield role alongside Sanchez, and, Sanchez wasn't as effective. So there could be something in that. But I've no doubt he'll have a better season this season than he did last season.
And just before I forget, I've remembered what else I was going to say about the director of football and why it would benefit us to have that. And it was when we were just talking about the whole central defensive target and that being a priority, etc. And that bit in the article where it said that the board didn't really necessarily think that any of those players would have been an improvement on what we already had. But we know one of the biggest problems that we have for our defence was not necessarily their defensive ability, although some of them were a bit, let's just say, not very good, but could have been a lot worse. But what I was thinking of is if we had a director of football in place, somebody who knows football, unlike Ed Woodward, a director of football with a good football knowledge and understanding of the game probably, now this is just me speculating, probably would have been able to identify the fact that the defenders that we had, two, maybe even three of them needed to be shifted out to make way for better defenders who can actually play football. It's okay being good in the air and being able to head a ball clear, and being able to pass a ball sideways. It's all good and well being able to do that. But in the modern game, that football's evolved since those types of defenders. Defenders nowadays, especially at elite level, need to be confident with the ball at their feet. Now, a director of football may be able to see that. Somebody who understands the game, where Ed Woodward might not. So you can understand Mourinho's frustration. He's highlighted these players for a reason. He's not getting them because the board have a different view. But having a director of football in there might say to Ed Woodward, well, actually, do you know what? Mourinho's got a point.
Yeah.
I tend to agree with Mourinho on this. Then if you've got a director of football and Mourinho agreeing on something, then the board kind of have to go with the director of football because that's what they brought him in for. The expert, the one who, bridges that gap, the one who says, okay, yeah, this is what should happen. That's his job. So that's one positive of having a director of football there. They can understand things about the game that maybe Ed Woodward and the board, the Glazers, might not. And that could help out Mourinho. I mean, it could go the complete opposite as well. Mourinho might want a player that doesn't suit United, and the board of the director of football might say to Mourinho, do you know what? No, I agree with the board on this one.
Yeah.
So it can work both ways. But that would have been one advantage of having one. That's what I was trying to think of earlier when I was rambling like an idiot. But yeah, next question.
So Rome's MUFC. Did we sign an Alexis Sanchez on the decline? Loses the ball way too much and should be dropped for Martial.
Andrew, take it away now.
Ooh, that's a difficult one because, like we talked about, Sanchez, he does try a lot of things, which it's hard to be upset with somebody trying to make plays happen, but at the same time, giving the ball away as often as he does can lead to, good scoring opportunities for other teams, and especially against better sides that will move the ball from defense to attack quicker. So did we sign an Alexis Sanchez on the decline? I mean, I still think that it's too early to tell. It's been one game of his, into his first full season with Manchester United. He was only here for half the year last year, and yeah, he did look like, he was maybe not his full self, but that could be down to a whole lot of different factors. But I don't think we'll know. I don't think we'll know until the full season has gone by and we get the chance to see what he does inside of a full season. Because, I mean, you could make the argument that just because he gives the ball away a lot, doesn't necessarily mean that he's on the decline. I mean, Kevin De Bruyne gave the ball away more than anybody else last year, and he had a phenomenal season.
Yeah.
So, but as for Martial, I mean, I'm a Martial fan, so I would love to see Martial in every game, but doesn't to talk about into the last question too, somebody to play on the right. Alexis Sanchez was at his best in his career when he was playing for Barcelona on the right.
Yeah.
So you could make the argument that maybe that's where we should be playing him, and then you can rotate between Rashford and Martial on the left and rotate them as a striker too. So just one way to look at it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I agree with you on that one. It is too early to tell. I mean, in pre-season he looked sharp when he was playing, and yeah, so he didn't have a great game against Leicester. He's not the only person that didn't have a great game. Yes, he probably was one of the worst ones against Leicester. But again, like you say, it's one game into the season. It's still too early to tell whether he's on. I don't think he's on the decline. All it takes is for him to have one good game, and then he could kick on from there. I don't think he should be dropped for Martial. Everybody who listens to this podcast will know my thoughts on Martial. I don't think he should never get a game again. Of course, he should still get minutes. He's not the worst player in the world. But I don't think we should be dropping Sanchez after one game.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with both of you. Regarding Sanchez, way too early. Is he on the decline? Who knows? He'll still be a fantastic talent, and he'll still be probably one of the best wide players in the league, and especially at Manchester United. In terms of dropping him now, I wouldn't drop him. For Martial, I mean, at the moment, I think I'm not saying next game, but I'm thinking we should really be doing what we did last season with Martial and Rashford, rotating them, making them play against each other for competition, which will get the best out of both of them. And we've seen Rashford not be as effective, at the end of last season and against Leicester. Obviously, only one game in. Doesn't really mean anything, but I think to get them both, match fit and sharp, rotating the two, it worked so well for us at the start of last season. Both of us bagging goals and assists left, right, and centre. So I'd like to see something like that happen, but I don't think Sanchez should be dropped. I think the more we play him, the more his confidence will grow and the more he'll grow into the team. So yeah, not for me.
Fair enough.
Couple again, Ike Yaguala, sort of a two-part question. Do you think Jose may have to change his man management style, and because more than ever he'll need the players to play for him to save his job? And in terms of Pogba, do we feel he's got the charisma and is willing to take the leadership role for the team?
Ash, do you want to go first on this one?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think it's a little bit of a blessing in disguise. The fact that we didn't bring in
Ash will be a while.
That's fine.
No, I think it's a blessing in disguise that Jose didn't get his targets, because as we all know, Jose loves the grittiness of it. He loves digging deep and this sort of everyone against us, the world against Manchester United and the world against Jose Mourinho. And I think we've seen Jose at his best when he's had small groups of players. Chelsea, Real Madrid, this tight-knit group. No, not a massive squad to work with, but a tight-knit group of players. And I think that's what he's got this season at United. Yes, he's brought one or two extra in, but I think we're going to see a similar 11 week in, week out, which I think will suit Jose Mourinho really, really well. Should he change his man management style? No, because he's Jose Mourinho. He is the boss at the end of the day. And some players need an arm around him, some players need to kick up the ass. And I think he will be in the best place to judge that. He's won trophies wherever he's gone, and he knows how to approach the situation. In terms of Pogba, I mean, there's rumours going around that we gave him the captaincy to keep him, apparently. I don't know how true that is. I don't think it's true. But yeah, I mean, who else have we got? David De Gea? Okay, he deserves it, no doubt, but he's at the back. He can't really control the flow of the game. I think Pogba is a great appointment for captaincy, especially coming off that World Cup win. And we all saw the rousing sort of speeches he gave in the dressing room between games and things like that. So for me, yeah, right decision.
Andrew.
Yeah. So I mean, in terms of the man management thing with Jose, I mean, I am not a Jose fan. I actually know I put on Twitter that I think that Mourinho with this squad isn't exactly the best fit. He needs he would need a hell of a lot more players in to make it his quote unquote his team. But ultimately, he is the manager, and he has other coaches like Michael Carrick and McKenna to go do other things that he won't necessarily do, because I think that Mourinho is a more kick up the ass style, whereas I think that Michael Carrick and McKenna might be more willing to go put an arm around the shoulder of a player and like, hey, listen, it's all good, no big deal. So I mean, that's not for us to decide. That's for the club to ultimately decide what to do with that. But as for the Pogba captaincy, Ash, you did mention that you heard rumors about it being to keep him. I actually heard rumors that we were doing it because that Mourinho finally is seeing him as a leader of the team, and some of his comments that he's been making recently, and like you said, some of the videos of him at the World Cup, you can make the argument between him and Lukaku. We have two captains that are true leaders of a team, and I think that between them two, I mean, we all kind of, I think, have our own feelings about Antonio Valencia, but one thing's for sure, I don't think that he should be captain. He doesn't really speak English well, and that in itself kind of equals a poor captaincy. But to have Paul Pogba as captain, somebody that's in the middle of the field and somebody that has the talent that he does, combined with the fact that all the players definitely look up to him in one way or another. I think that's a great appointment, and hopefully it's true that he is the appointment for the year officially, like that he will be captain game in, game out, because I think that with him as captain, it could equal good things for the team on the whole.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that as well, Ari Pogba. I mean, he came through United's youth system. He knows what the club's about. He'll be. I mean, there aren't many players in the team now that are left from. I think Michael Carrick was the last one left from the Ferguson era, wasn't he? I think.
Yeah.
Jones, Smalling, and all that, but we won't speak about that.
They don't count.
I was thinking in my head mainly the 2008, 2019. Carrick was the last one, wasn't he? He's now gone.
Yeah.
But Pogba's come through the youth system. He's sort of one of our own, so to speak. Plus, he plays in the right part of the pitch. Well, I suppose a defender could be a captain, but I think Pogba, being in the centre of the park the whole time, he can control things. He can get people. Like you say, if De Gea was a captain and he had to go and put an arm around the player, if it was Lukaku, he's got to run all the way up to the opposition half to go and have a little chat with him. Do you know what I mean? So it wouldn't make much sense for a goalkeeper to be a captain. It's not, it's possible, it can be done, but for me, it's got to be a midfielder. And I said a couple of seasons ago when Pogba first joined us, I thought, he when we were, because there was a big thing, wasn't there, about captaincy. People didn't like the idea that Rooney was the captain, and people were saying, well, who is there really in our team that's a leader? Because we had no leaders for a long time.
Yeah.
And for me, Pogba was the standout man. He's vocal, he's loud, he's passionate. And I think he would be an ideal candidate. So, absolutely, definitely has the charisma and willing to take leadership. So I'd love to see him remain as captain for the rest of the season. With regards to Mourinho's man management style, no, I don't think some of the things he says make you think, oh, steady on. But look, he's a human being. He's emotional. He's passionate. We say things sometimes, and he's not the only manager to be like that. There's been hundreds of managers over the years that have been like that have said something, public. And we've seen it last season, and I keep referring to that Brighton game, and we got a reaction from the players. We always see things in the media about disruption and unhappiness amongst the players. Yet, literally a day later or the same day, pictures are coming out from the training ground of the manager laughing and joking with all the players, and all the players happy. Like when we've seen that little video clip of Anthony Martial having a little joke and a laugh, do you know what I mean? It's like, well, are they really that unhappy? And then the evidence was there again against Leicester. Every single player battling and working for the manager. So he's doing something right, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Luke Shaw spoke highly of him recently. Do you know what I mean? So the way I look at it is that if you're having a run-in with the manager, at the end of the day, the manager has the final word. If you're the sort of person who's going to fight against the manager, should you really be there?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because it's okay to say, yeah, managers are only around for 2 or 3 years. Well, do you see a lot of player loyalty these days? You don't, do you?
No.
If a bigger paycheck comes along, you're going to take it. So you could say that about players. The loyalty just isn't there from players anymore. You get the odd one or two, don't get me wrong, but the majority of them, no, you don't see that anymore. Swings and roundabouts.
Yep, I agree. So to round us off then, last one, Campbellix. We speculate too much and maybe we need to support the club better.
That's what we got to do, innit? We got to speculate, otherwise there wouldn't be a podcast, and then Twitter would just be full of yes men.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you've seen the that's not always a good thing.
Yeah, spot
on. I agree, but I also so I know I got a question when I put out there that I was going to be on the podcast with you guys. If you guys don't mind me reading it.
No, go for it. I did see that. Do it.
Okay, so question was from Stephen Bolt at Stephen_Bolt. Can we genuinely succeed this season playing a 4-3-3 Maybe Lingard is the answer to the right wing forward position, since he's lost his right center mid position to Fred. If we do play the 3-5-2, are our front four of Lukaku, Sanchez, Rashford, and Martial the best in the Prem?
I wouldn't. Do you want to go first, Ash?
I don't know. It's a tough one. As much as I like Lingard and as well as he did last season, I still think he'll have an impact. But how much of that, I don't know. I think Rashford will get more game time this season, especially with taking the number 10 shirt, which is a little bit controversial in my opinion. But you never know. I mean, with the players that we've got in, you look at that midfield now with Pereira getting more game time and Fred. Are we going to need another sort of static attacker? I use that term loosely, static attacker. But Lingard, he's a bit like Mata in the term that he likes to float between the lines and do a lot by not doing an awful lot, if you know what I mean. And if it makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I was mindful of squash, otherwise I would have laughed.
Yeah. But do I think that front four could be the best in the league? I mean, the potential's there, I suppose, but you're going to be hard pushed to get a better attacking lineup, than City and Liverpool. Unfortunately, I think Liverpool's front three, they've brought in a little bit of depth as well. I think they could look dangerous, and I think they'll go close with us, I'm hoping, to challenge City. And obviously City have only improved on what they had last season. So I'd like to think that, with the cohesion and with our improved midfield, I think we can go up there and push on. But it's a tough one for me.
Yeah, I don't think, like you say, when I seen that question on Twitter yesterday, the first thing I thought was, well, we're not better than Liverpool and Man City in an attacking sense. Any person who watches football can see that. I don't think we're far behind them. The talent's definitely there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think that they're as good as those. What was the first part of the question? Sorry, Andrew.
So the first part of the question was about, do you think we can succeed with the 4-3-3?
Right. Yes, I do. I do also think we will see 3-5-2 make an appearance a few times. I guess it depends on the game, because we've seen both formations last season.
Yeah.
We did see both of them. We've seen both of them in the preseason last season. We've seen them in the preseason this season. The reason he plays both systems and tries both systems is because they're both going to be needed during the season. Otherwise, he wouldn't have tried it out. But also injuries and suspensions will come into play, and that might force his hand on what formation he plays. So that's why managers try different systems and practice them several times during the pre-season, is because they know that they're going to use them during the season, whether it's by choice or because they're forced to. So I do think that we'll see both formations. And like I said earlier, there's not much difference between the formations at the end of the day, especially the way we play, especially defensively. So we're always going to defend with 11 men behind the ball. And there's always going to be about 6 or 7 players in the box. The wing backs will be, tracking back the wingers of the opposing teams. The formation doesn't really make that much of a difference, because you can have the same 3 in midfield as well. The only time it make a difference is we might have an extra man up front when we attack. So maybe against weaker opposition or a home game, we might start seeing the 3-5-2 rear its head. But against tougher opposition, we probably go with a back 4 with the wingers coming back as well, making it a back 6. So yeah, that's what I think on that.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, for me, with the 4-3-3, I think that has the potential to be our best formation if the players are used in the right spot. So, he did mention Lingard playing on the right wing instead of in the center mid because of Fred coming in. I mean, I personally still look at Lingard as more of as a squad player, more of as a rotation player. He does have a tendency to disappear far too often. I mean, he can go through and go pull off some world-class stuff at times, but, he does tend to disappear at times too, which is the same thing with, Martial and Rashford as well. But, it's still my opinion. I think we should be giving Alexis Sanchez a try on the right-hand side. and really going at that, and then putting, Martial and Rashford on the left, and let a squad build from that. Everybody thought that when Sanchez was being bought, he was being bought to be either played, as a 10 or on the right, and it seems like it hasn't really been given a try other than like a few minutes here and there. So that's my opinion on the 4-3-3. As in terms of the 3-5-2, I do think that it has a potential to be a good formation for us as well. But you did touch on it, both of you, about you're going to be hard pressed to find better attacks than Liverpool and City have right now. I really hate to say that, but we have really good attacking talent, and if they live up to all of their potential, yeah, absolutely, they can be better than anyone in the Prem. But until that potential is lived up to, it's kind of hard to say that they would be the best out there.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Lovely.
Well, we got to that stage in the podcast. We've actually, I'm pretty sure we've approached an hour already.
Yeah.
So, Andrew, thank you for joining us. We will part ways with you now. Me and Ash will go off and do our usual preview for the next game. But again, thank you for joining us. Hope you've enjoyed your time on here.
Always. I love talking with you guys. I love talking fan opinion. I'll know you'll mention it, so I'll just throw it out there now. Follow me on Twitter at RedBeardedRed, and come have a discussion with me. I love to talk all fan opinion, no matter what your opinion is on the club. I love to talk it all.
Excellent. Yeah, that was going to be my next question, if you wanted to give out your Twitter details, but you've done that, so fantastic. So yeah, again, thank you for joining us. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and yeah, we'll speak to you very soon.
Absolutely, guys. Thanks for having me on.
No worries. Cheers.
Bye.
Right, and Ash, you know what to do, brother.
So yeah, moving on then. Coming up to Brighton away on Sunday then, which has been, it seems like a bit of a slog, playing the early game on a Friday to sort of one of the last games on the following weekend. It's a long old slog, but never mind. It's
one less thing for Mourinho to worry about then, isn't it? Really?
Exactly, yeah. An extra day's rest, so he's got nothing to complain about in that respect. So yeah, Brighton away. We normally do the form thing, but I'm didn't really take a look into their pre-season too much. I looked at sort of the last game, and the last game was against Watford, where they lost 2-0. Only saw bits and pieces of it. Nothing too impressive. A few flashes on the wing, but Watford thoroughly deserved the victory. Brighton didn't look brilliant, and it's, I don't want to say it, but because Brighton have given us trouble in the past, but you'd expect the form we're in, and the team that we're playing should be able to do a job against Brighton. So again, I'll just move straight on because there's not much to talk about form. Looking at danger men, a few names down as normal. I think they were very similar to the ones we said last season. Again, with Knockaert, Pascal Gross, Locadia, I think I mentioned at the end of last season, Glenn Murray and Izquierdo. And it's worth noting that they've also brought in a couple of summer signings. Montoya, a fullback from Valencia, who I'm pretty sure we were linked with a couple of seasons back. Andone, a striker from Deportivo, and their record signing, Ali Reza Jahanbakhsh, or something to that effect.
Jahanbakhsh.
Yeah, Jahanbakhsh. Well done. From AZ Alkmaar, I think it was. Their record signing. So they're the names I've got down. I don't know if they're any similar to yours or different.
No, pretty much the same. But yeah, that game against Watford, they were poor. Yeah. They were poor. Didn't register a shot on target. Houghton wasn't happy. As you say, they made a few new signings. None of them actually started the game. They came on later in the game, so there's a good chance that they might start. And that Jahanbakhsh, I'd never heard of him, but apparently, like you say, he's their record signing. He was the Eredivisie top scorer last season, apparently. So I hear, so I read. So he could be a threat. I've put his name down because he can obviously score goals, so if he's given half the chance. The danger men I put down is himself, also Pascal Gross and Glenn Murray.
Yeah.
Glenn Murray obviously started against Watford. He may not. They may decide to start their record signing. You would expect that, wouldn't you? I mean, Glenn Murray's getting on a bit now.
Yeah.
But Pascal Gross is still in the team, and both games last season he was a threat to us.
Yeah.
Almost setting up goals. So if he's going to start, he'll cause us problems. And if that your hangback gets half a chance, he could cause us problems as well.
Yep.
But it's like I said last season against Brighton. There's only a couple of players in their team that would likely to be causing us a threat. But when you look at our squad, we should be able to deal with that and be fairly comfortable. But this is Man United we're talking about.
Yes, we all know how that can go. So talking of our squad, how have you got us? Oh, before should we talk about last week's?
Yes,
predictions. It was extremely close, wasn't it? It was. I think we had virtually the same team apart from one player, wasn't it? Sanchez and Lukaku. I think that was the only difference we had.
Was it not Rashford and Lukaku? Was a difference?
Oh, it could have been, yeah. Could have been Rashford and Lukaku, yeah. And I think we had it pretty much spot on. Apart from we both had Chris Smalling starting over Lindelof, I think, didn't we?
I had Lindelof and Smalling in defence.
That's it. And I think I had. What did I have? I can't remember what I had. It was something similar. I know there was one difference in it, and that was
you had the same back four as me. I remember that.
Yeah, that's it. We had the same team apart from that Rashford and Lukaku, and Rashford started and Lukaku didn't, which means I take the first point of the season. Very early days.
Very early days indeed.
I'm sure you'll claw it back, no problem.
I did get the score prediction right, though. I did say 2-1.
You did say.
I bet you were gutted when Vardy scored. You said 2-0.
I did say 2-0, and I was thinking, oh, look at that Shaw scored, and then we decided to give him a goal. Doesn't matter, not to worry. So go on and give us your 11.
Well, I've actually gone, despite me getting the team wrong last week by 2 players.
Yeah.
I've actually gone with no, I haven't gone with the same team. I've actually gone one player different. I've actually gone with Bailly because I had Lindelof and Smalling, so I wasn't sure if he was going to pick Bailly because of his little knock when he played. When it was, I think it was Bayern Munich, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He had that knock. So I went with Lindelof and Smalling, but this time I've gone for Darmian, Bailly, Lindelof, Shaw, Fred Pereira, Pogba, Mata, Lukaku, Sanchez. So basically the same team as last week, just with Lukaku coming in. Same team that actually played last week, so I say. But with Lukaku coming in, starting.
But I think that's exactly the same team as me. So De Gea, Darmian, Bailly, Lindelof, Shaw, Pereira, Fred, Pogba, Mata, Lukaku, and Sanchez.
So it's going to come down to whoever gets the play.
I'm willing to swap out Mata for Rashford because I nearly did that.
Well, that's entirely up to you. But
if you want to make it interesting, innit? We'll make it interesting. I'll scrap out Mata and I'll put Rashford instead.
Okay, well, if you had that doubt in your mind, then go for it. Yeah.
I nearly put him in, so there we are. We'll keep it like that. Score.
I think I might have lost you.
Still here.
Hello?
Hello?
Oh, there you are. Yeah, you are there. Okay, cool.
Yeah, still here. I could hear you.
Oh, good.
So, go on, score prediction.
Score prediction. Do you know what? I'm feeling optimistic. I'm going to go 3-0 to Man United, away at Brighton.
Oh, very nice. I'm going to go 2-0 then. I'm going to stick with my prediction from last week, and hopefully we don't concede a late goal. So, yeah, I've gone for 2-0 again. Lukaku to get one this week. He should have had one against Leicester, but, yeah, he's going to score this weekend.
Let's hope so.
Lovely.
So you're saying 3-0. And again, one player different in our lineup prediction.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, that was a very short preview.
Yeah, it was.
Are you still there?
I am.
Yeah. Okay. It keeps going silent, so I don't know if you're there or not. So that's the preview done. I think there's also a delay as well, maybe, which is sat here. I don't know. We'll figure it out. So that was the preview done then. Any of you listening, get in touch with us, Twitter or on YouTube. If you're listening on YouTube, give us some comments. What do you think of the director of football thing? What do you think of our formation, the players that we're playing? Anything you want to talk about, just get in touch with us. Ash, do you have anything else you want to add?
I don't think so. It's just just hope for another 3 points and decent performance. I'll be happy.
Absolutely. Do you want to give out your Twitter details?
Yep, at Ashboyo, ASHBOIO.
And you can also follow me as well at Paul Gardiner LP. Don't forget to follow our podcast Twitter account at United Stand Pod, the main United Stand account as well at United Stand MUFC. Subscribe and like and comment us on Twitter. We always appreciate your feedback and your discussion. Whatever podcast app you're using, give us a 5-star rating because you know we're 5-star gentlemen. Honestly, we are. But yeah, we appreciate your following. The YouTube account is obviously still young. We only brought it in towards the end of last season, but the subscriber count is slowly increasing, which is good. So thank you all for subscribing to us and sticking with us. The podcast downloads last week as well. We thought they were going to take a huge hit because of how long we were away over pre-season. We've come back and pretty much picked up where we've left off. So again, thank you to everyone for sticking with us. It's good that that's happened. Whilst you're on YouTube, if you're on YouTube, get over and subscribe to VanCam. I go on about it every week. You don't need me to go through the ins and the outs, but it's a gem. Just go and subscribe and watch, and you'll know what I mean. It's the wonderful Kev Ashford. So I think that's it from us, Ash, unless you've got anything else to add.
No, I don't think so, mate. That's it.
Excellent. Well, as always, thank you all for listening. We will be back next week. Oh, what day Man United playing? Sunday, isn't it?
Sunday.
Yeah, we'll be back next Monday, unless anything bad happens. Touch wood, it doesn't. But thank you all for listening. We'll be back next week.